All right, guys. Sorry we're late. We had some technical issues going on with technology. So we are joined here with one of the best cerakoters in the industry, if not the best cerakoter in the industry, Mr. Boom Country Hydrographix. Mr. Boom Country, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Ryan with Boom Country Hydrographix, and I appreciate you thinking that I am one of the best. I will never say I'm one of the best. I am one of the pickiest, but I'm not. I will never say the best because there's always something to learn. There's always somebody better. But until you
Oh,
keep pushing it, you'll never know.
oh yeah. I completely agree. We're only as good as we allow ourselves to think we are, but dude, you do some of the most phenomenal work. For those that don't know, Mr. Boom Country is about to get this rifle to do some crazy stuff with. He doesn't know it yet, but he's gonna get it. So, all
Well,
right,
we'll help out. That's for sure.
we're gonna jump right into it, and we're gonna just have a conversation. So, Mr. Boom Country, how did you get started in the firearms industry? Either as a shooter, like, did it start as just family things, or did it start as just
Pretty
getting
much
into
from the time I could walk. My dad was a big hunter, and he worked all the time. And then when it was hunting season, we were always hunting. So father son. When my dad couldn't take me, my uncle would swing in, and he would pick me up and take me. My dad's brother, my uncle, that way. And then pretty soon it expanded from rifle and shotgun into archery, and then back to rifle and shotgun in my teens um, and upper teens. The neighborhood had a clay pigeon hut up the road at one of the neighbors, and every Sunday the whole community would get together and shoot what we called a turkey shoot. Everybody would donate their money a week ahead of time and bring 4 boxes of ammo, and through everybody threw in $20. Whoever was going to town that week in the community went to town, picked up. One was a frozen turkey, and there would be other prizes and booby prizes, and make it fun for everybody in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
And
that's awesome.
so we just kind of had a good time with it. And then I got more into rifles and pistols because I liked hunting coyotes and I liked hunting squirrels. For a northerner, hunting squirrels, okay, or Midwest guy hunting squirrels, not very popular thing. I wasn't much on eating them, but my barn cats loved them.
That's great. So it sounds like you and I both started off in the same spectrum of getting into firearms. Both started with shooting clay pigeons and stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, did you shoot with your local high school, or did your high school not have a team like that?
We did not have a team like that back in my day. I hate to date myself, but it was in the 80s and 90s, and that that wasn't a thing. Okay, up here, it might have been in the bigger schools.
Hmm.
Wasn't up here. We were allowed to shoot with the local trap clubs and stuff, and they all took us in like we were family, which was great. There was not a lot of rifle ranges around. We all kind of shot on our own for that. There was a
Hmm.
few local guys that I can remember. One of them being one of my classmates' dads, and my uncle on my mom's side got into it for a little bit. They were shooting 222s to 1,000, and they would run around and shoot some local competitions that were being hosted by private people just because they were all into that. That fell off probably when I was 17, 18. Um, and I just kind of continued with it. I bought every time I had a paycheck or could earn a paycheck, which I was taught from a young age. At the age of 14, I was working like a man. Um,
Hmm.
I was told if I put in 40 hours, I got paid like a man. So I put in my 40 plus hours every week, on top of school to make sure that I had play money.
Gotcha, gotcha. So how did you transition over to the rifle scene?
I was a lot into shotguns. I would I did a lot of shotgun shooting. I burnt up. I mean, my poor 870 was probably burnt up when I got it, but it was the first one I bought. then I just decided one day I wanted rifles, and I started, and I went up. I had a couple rifles through high school, but I decided I wanted to turn, when I turned 18, I was actually out of high school, working at the local hardware store. So I started buying rifles. Every time that I would get enough money together, I think Savage 243 was one of my first. Had a little bad luck with that one. Turned into I want something better. So then, as another year went older, I moved up to another town just north of us for a year while a gal I was chasing was going to college. So I got an apartment up there and worked up there at the hardware store that had guns. I was actually the tool salesman for DeWalt and whatnot, but then I would fill in the gun section whenever I could just to get that experience. I ended up buying a high-end 1022. That was custom built, got turned in because the guy decided he didn't think it could shoot, and I took it out, and I could shoot a 50-cent piece at 100 yards all day long.
Hell yeah.
Bought that, and then I just kept adding, and it was handguns, rifles. Pretty soon I had 36 guns, and I didn't know what to do with myself. That point, like every guy in life, I ended up meeting my wife, and some of them disappeared so we could start a family. But now my kids are growing. So I'm kid.
There you go. We never really grow up. We only get more expensive toys. Like that's the reality.
That is correct. As life is telling me right now, and I'm like, fund another one or actually go to some shoots.
Yeah. And see, that's the spot where we're all put in. Like, do we buy more expensive toys? Or do we go run a match and put our skills to the test? Because
and I'm really about learning right now and putting my skills to the test because I push myself every day. I work a full-time job, I work a part-time job, and I own my Boom Country Hydrographix. I sleep about 4 hours a day.
Damn, dude.
And 5 if I'm lucky. But I love every minute of it, and I won't quit. People have asked me why. Because I have a goal. I want to be retired. I want my family to be taken care of. I have a son that will be with us for a while, and my wife, and has ran into some medical issues, and we're going to take care of that, and we're going to move on, and we're going to have some nice stuff, and I'm going to retire someday soon.
Oh, yeah, dude. Dude, so what was your first rifle that you ever built or bought? I guess we'll say bought. What was your first rifle that you ever bought? And if you could go back to the time when you first bought that rifle, would you buy it again?
I probably would. It was a 6mm Ruger #1 with a Citron scope that had all the BDC, had everything on it. That was my baby for years. I would buy more 6mm Remington and blow up more 6mm Remington than I could afford to.
Oh, yeah.
One shot at a time, so I had to learn to shoot. I was one of the few guys in the neighborhood at that time, at the range I belonged to, shooting 300, 400, 500 yards on a constant basis. That was my practice. I warm up 100, 200. Once I got out there, I would shoot out there, and then I would just shoot my way back in, and I was done.
There you go. So, John makes a great point here. Retire, you already are doing what you love.
Amen. And I mean, I won't retire from the Boom Country Hydrographix. I will just retire from my main job, and I will probably keep the second job as a part-time gig because there are some benefits to it. I work a local gun shop part-time, and I get a discount on my powders, and I get a discount on some stuff, primers when they show up. That even being a dealer, depending on, they have different relationships than the stuff that I deal in because I don't want to contradict myself with them. And I don't do a lot of gun sales. Like, I will do a complete custom build, and they're okay with that because it's very few transactions, and I'm not charging at that point to do a transaction. I ship it off to another FFL. They're going to do the paperwork, and wherever they're from.
Gotcha. So with you being in a local shop, how did you get into cerakoting versus, I know you do gunsmithing too, but your main focus is cerakoting, right?
That is correct. And the only reason I got into working on any of the firearms, and I won't say I'm an official gunsmith per se. I had to learn how to tear down the firearms so I didn't have to pay somebody to tear them down to cerakote them for me, so I could cerakote them. The cerakoting thing I got into about 6 years ago. I got into hydrographics dipping, and then right after that came cerakoting, and it all kind of fell together. Originally, that I wanted to be able to dip to cerakote, and some guys say you can. Hydro dipping is not all that it cracked up to be. It is very, very talented people that do that. The guys that do a great job. I can do a great job. It's just very time consuming and very costly. People don't want to pay the extra of what that stuff costs.
So that was going to be my question: is how much difference was hydro dipping versus cerakoting?
So hydro dipping was auto body quality paint. So I'm going down to the local store. You wanted 1992 Camaro green. I'm going down there and paying for a quart pint, depending on what size of project. So you're paying automotive prices. You're prepping and painting the object, which is most of your time. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you figure an auto body shop, you're paying $36, $39 an hour, maybe more.
Yeah.
Okay. People don't want to pay that kind of time for somebody they think the hydro dip, you just walk in, paint it, and dip it. No. The better quality of paint job you have on it, the better quality of hydro dip you have on it, and the better quality of clear coat. So not only did I have to prep the paint to dip it, once it was dipped, I had to wait for it to dry 24, and then I could come in and clear coat it, and then sand and buff and do everything on the clear coat. So
gotcha.
I rented a commercial shop for about 4 years. Did that till the point in time where I was starting to think I was going to go broke. I regathered my stuff, and I happened to have a 10 by 10 shop here at my house, and it was big enough to cerakote in. It is not big enough to hydro dip in, but I do have a buddy's place. I can set my hydro stuff up if I do have to do that. Mm-hmm. I got really good at decent at airbrushing. I can copy a pattern. I can pretty much put skulls. I can do everything. I've even learned I can freehand writing the name in there pretty well too. So I just practiced with my airbrushes and practiced with the different materials and studied my metals. Like I said, I don't sleep much. So when I want to do something, I tie in like a pit bull and hang on.
There you go. So John's got a question here. Do you love the 1911 flag and Glock skulls?
Those were hydro dip. Yep. I can still do the skulls with airbrush and cerakote. The flag stuff I can do in cerakote. It just looks a little different. It's not quite as nice as that hydro dip. That was a buddy's gun that walked in one day, and he was having a rough time in his life. And I said, you know what? Get up here. Bring some toys. So he got up there and brought some toys because, you know what? It ain't always about money. Sometimes it's about keeping people on the straight and getting them out of their funk so they can get back to taking care of their family. And
absolutely.
The gun with the skulls was the same thing. So it was, oddly enough, you mentioned the two, and those were two guys that were going through a really bad part in their life right then. And one guy says, well, I want to learn how to do this. Well, I brought him in. I cerakoted his frame while he hydro dipped the stuff, and I let him use all my equipment, and he paid me to do it for him using my equipment, and he had something to be proud of.
Gotcha. So, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but so you hear a lot about guys doing duracoat but not cerakote, or guys that are doing cerakote, they're not doing duracoat. Is there a difference between like cerakoting and duracoating?
The three main things out there right now are cerakote, KG gun coat, and duracoat. They all have their downfalls. They all have their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do not specific. I've learned them all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one. If you want a color, I'm going to do it in your color. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And if I can get, say, what's cool about Duracoat is I can go over and I can get anodized colors from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to be able to closer match your off the shelf Timber Creek anodized red. Okay. Your anodized blues. Excuse me. I'm going to be able to get all of that closer with that product. KG Gun Coat is the bonus with that is if I use my gun a lot and I use KG Gun Coat, which I've noticed, there's, I've learned this and paid a little extra money to get the clear coat if you're going to run KG Gun Coat because it is a lot tougher if you do that. Okay. Any of the stuff I've KG gun coated with clear is way more durable than if I'm not cleared. But you can run it either way. I actually run it either way, and I abuse my firearms, and I treat my firearms as test items. Except the show one that I'm going to do. So when that gets banged up, I'm going to, be a little hurt. But I am going to Cerakote that one. Cerakote is very tough, but it does wear. People don't realize that it will wear in the high wear spots, especially on that 1911 you saw. Well, not the flagged one, but if you saw the burnt bronze, if you looked on my Instagram, you'll see a burnt bronze and black. I completely redid that. That had holster wear, something Pierce. If you see the revolvers on there, or I don't know if I put the lever action on there. I have a lever action 22. Was that a 22 or that might have been a 35? I don't remember what caliber that was, but that was a fire gun. I did fire restoration on both of those. We took them to the local the other gunsmith because I didn't want the liability myself to say they shot. And he verified that they shot. The guy brought them over. I tore them completely down, cerakoted them, KG gun coated them, put them back together, and the owner says they have never worked better.
Well, so that was going to kind of be my next question. Does cerakoting kind of add like a filament type, I guess, epoxy grease that makes like grease or oil adhere better to the action of either the firearm or the... I don't know a lot.
All of them repel that more. All of them will repel the grease more. Okay. All of them will repel the oil more. They will look oil stained. Cerakote's a good one to look oil stained. But it is pretty much pertinent to most every chemical out there. I have ran all of them. The part I like about KG Gun Coat is I can go back in and touch it up without having to redo the whole thing. So I can take my airbrush and I can lightly lay it into the, say you scratched it. I can lightly lay it into the scratch and I can feather it out so it looks like it's supposed to be there. It takes me about half the time. You bring me in a Cerakote job that you've scratched up, I got to reblast the whole thing and redo it. So that's the difference between those two. Duracoat is another one I can touch up. So I prefer KG and Cerakote. Those are the two I run the most.
So when you're running prep on whatever you're cerakoting, whether it be a firearm, whether it be just a piece of a car, whatever you're cerakoting on, what type of prep goes into that? Like, so what all do you have to do? I know you have to get a lot of the anodizing off, right?
Correct. What I'm going to do is I'm going to degrease it first, okay? Then I'm going to take it to my sandblaster. It's going to sit in a degrease for about an hour, hour and a half. I'm going to pull it out, let it dry. Then I'm going to take it over to the sandblaster. And depending on the item, if it's plastic, I'm going to turn my air way down. Now, you possibly saw a purple RPR 1022 on that, but because of the color that was in that, to make that flake show up a little more, I had to go a little deeper into that plastic on that RPR 22 to give it that pop. And it also gave my buddy a little bit of texture from Northwest Guns, gave it a little bit of texture because he was going to be running in some competitions and I didn't want him to drop it, you know?
Gotcha.
the super slick stuff just doesn't work. So at first he was like, man, this is kind of gritty. I said, that's on purpose, man. I said, trust me. And after he went out and actually shot it in a scenario like that, not in an actual match, but prepping for an actual match, and actually moved around with it a little bit, he was totally in love with it. Plus, it gave that the purple had a little bit of flake in it, so it gave it that extra pop when the sunlight hits it.
Okay, so like, how are you creating these pastel colors, like the one that you're doing on your pristine action?
Okay, on the pristine, I use gun candy drop-ins, or I actually use automotive clear coat drop-ins.
Gotcha.
So the white.
I remember you showing me the color that you're going with that, and that's a dope ass color. Like that's gonna look super cool, and I'm super stoked to see it.
I am too, because I am a huge look at me. I don't care what people think. I will rock the prettiest pink firearm there ever was when it is available. Pepto Pink, I'll pass. I can't handle Pepto Pink. But, if we get into some, if you really want to know, one of my favorite colors is 1976 Dodge Rotoglow Orange.
So that bright one.
No, the sunburnt orange with all the flake in it.
So like that Texas Longhorn orange kind of?
Yeah, kind of that. And it might even be a little darker than that. But I do have some of that here too that I'm going to be doing. But I have to order a little more flake because it didn't have enough for me.
Nice. So we're going to go a little bit into the competition side of things. So you just competed at what, the King of 1 Mile?
No, I was invited to the King of 1 Mile, and I did turn down my spot this year just due to some family stuff. I was in Wyoming for the Night Force ELR Challenge.
So when you're doing ELR, it's one thing for me to sit here and explain what ELR is on this side of the screen, and maybe it's easier for you to explain it. But
okay.
What gear are you running this year for ELR? What rifle are you running? I know we're both big 338 Edge fans.
Yes, I'm a 38 Edge fan. That was what I was running this year. Next year we're gonna change it up. We've got a different plan. We got to see this. There are a couple different types of ELR. The true ELR guys will not consider this ELR. They will consider it dirty PRS out to 2700. So the shoot we were at was a belly shoot, and it was 840 to 2700. Were the targets. We shot as a team, so we had different type of engagement as a single shooter. Single shooter had 8 rounds, 3 minutes. Team had 5 minutes between 2 shooters, and we couldn't always be quite a ways away from each other, so you do get shell shocked a little bit. But at the same time, we had fun. We learned. A lot of the stuff was in that 1,000 to 1,500 yard range, 1,700 yard. So next year, when we start doing this stuff as a team, we're gonna be running possibly, and just a guesstimation, we're still in talks of what we're actually gonna be running. I'm gonna still run my 338 Edge as a big caliber because I love it, and my buddy is okay with going to a lighter caliber. So something like a 6.5 284 or something like that, or some kind of 7 mil as a lighter caliber. And that way we're cleaning clocks on this 800 to 1,000 yard stuff with the lighter cal guaranteed. And then we got the big guy as a backup.
So are you interested in the 7 PRC that Hornady just released?
I haven't even looked at it. I just saw that this morning, and I heard whispers of it just because of the people I'm connected with. And I've kind of been waiting, and I didn't get any inside look, which would have been nice. But I see Pete from Impact Shooting. He posted it today and said, not what you think. And so honestly, maybe we look at it. I don't know. I have to do some homework. We're old school guys. We're both wildcatters. That's kind of our, everybody's mainstream 6 Creed this or that for PRS, I'm 243. Okay, I'm the old cat. All right, I'm going to bring out a 243 fast twist. Is what's going on that pristine build in an NTU contour from Criterion. My partner is going to be running. We're doing a video series to see what's the difference between 243 match chamber with a fast twist and a 243 Ackley improved with fast twist. Are we gaining any?
So that's one caliber I'm not super familiar with is the 243. I've never shot one. I've had opportunities to shoot one, but it seems to be every time somebody has a 243 at the range, they're like, hey, do you want to shoot it? It's right there in the middle of match season, so the last thing you want to do is start shooting somebody else's rifle.
Understood.
And so I've never shot a 243. I've had opportunities, and maybe I should have just jumped on them. But during the middle of match season, the last thing I want to do is try mess with somebody else's trigger and be like, ugh, this is awful.
Correct. Man, I'm learning that quick, and I'm fortunate enough to be taken care of this year for triggers. I don't get a lot of them, but I'm going to go ahead because they've taken care of me. I'm going to go ahead and start purchasing the rest of my triggers to match the one I've got. I'm going all Elfman. And you know, I'm sure they'll take care of me when I tell them I'm needing this many. So I'm going to switch every AR I've got over. I'm going to switch every bolt action I've got over. The only two that I can't at this point, they don't make for are my Ruger Precisions, which at that point I'm going to be stuck going Jard or Trimney, and I'm not sure which one yet. I've heard good things about the Jard, but I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Man, I've got Elfman tactical triggers. Oh, did we lose you?
I love them.
Dude, I've got Elfman tactical triggers in all my gas rifles. And the fact that you can turn them down to the same weight as whatever, down to ounces, and they still perform, they're still drop safe tested. So I can set my gas rifle trigger weights to the same weight as my bolt action rifles, and I know that they're still safe. I love the Elfman tactical triggers. I absolutely love them.
You know, and that's all that will be in my my bolt actions from here on out. I can guarantee it. They make everything I need for all my bolt actions. Most of them are Remington 700 actions that I'm running.
Oh, I think we lost Boom Country.
Ridiculous. Sorry about that. I just switched over to Wi-Fi. I forgot I wasn't on Wi-Fi, so I figured I might as well be using my gig connection.
There we go.
Anyway, Remingtons were reasonable. When I found the Remage system, I had people tell me, yeah, it'll be okay. Get the shouldered barrel. Get the shouldered barrel. You know what? I still can tell you I'm running SDs of 8, and I am shooting quarter to half minute groups without any kind of tuners, without anything, off of Rem Age barrels.
Yeah.
I'm a huge 22 Creedmoor fan. I shoot a lot of prairie dogs, a lot of coyotes. 6.5 Grendel, 22 Creedmoor. They're kind of my favorites. So we'll see,
Gotcha. So I know I sent you the question. So it's hard for me to explain. I've been reloading for a very, very long time. And so when I start doing load development, it's hard for me to explain it and break it down step by step where people can understand it. And it's because I've been doing it for so long. I literally set up my dies by fill. Like I can fill
Correct.
it when it's ready. And so do you do your load development a lot like how I do? I start about middle of the pack of the load, and then I go up 2 to 3/10 of a grain from there as I'm doing it. And then once I found the node in my grains, then I start playing with depth. Is that what you do also, or how do you do yours?
Correct. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it with a Satterley load test. I'm going to run 10 rounds. I'm going to do
Hmm.
0.2 increments from wherever I start. I usually, I, I've come to find out that I like to go to the very top of the scale, drop down a half a grain, and then work my way down in 0.2. Okay. So I will start with essentially my last round of the Satterley load test. Say, just for example, I'm 32.5 is your top. Okay. I'm going to drop down to 32, and then I'm going to go down to 31.8 and
Hmm.
so forth, all the way down 10 rounds. But then I shoot them in reverse order. I'm going to shoot them from lowest to highest. If I start seeing pressure signs, I quit and I go and reevaluate, and I'll start where I ended and work my way down.
So it sounds like we do it
Again,
a lot the same way. I just go up as you go down.
correct. And the reason being, I have come to find out everybody wants speed. Everybody's like, I gotta have that speed. I am old school again. I want that accuracy.
Hmm.
Okay. If it's half minute and I flinch half minute, I'm still within one MOA,
Yeah,
especially on
that's
steel matches.
that's how I am. I would rather it be slower, but be a laser than I would it being like my six dasher. It's running less than 3,000 feet per second, and the dasher, everybody I know running the dasher is running 3,050 feet per second, 3,100 feet per second, right at that 3,200 feet per second cutoff, and I'm running barely 29. But it's a
Correct.
laser, man. It's such a laser.
Now,
Um,
I had to laugh because I'm 22 Creed. I mentioned that, okay, and that is a laser beam. That is a 3,500 feet per second. If I'm running 75 grain, and everybody's like, "What are you running?" I'm like, 95 grain. They're like, "Huh?" 88 grain, and they're like, "Well, what are your speeds?" And I'm like, 2,800, 2,900, and they're like, "Huh? Why not 35, 36, 37?" And I'm like, "Why 35, 36, and 37? Answer me that." When
I
you
mean,
give
I
me a
personally don't like cutting barrels every month. I mean, as somebody that cuts his own barrels, it takes time cutting your own barrel. For
it
people
does.
that don't understand that, cutting your own barrels is very time consuming, very mentally consuming, and very
And
frustrating when you mess up a barrel blade.
well, especially when you're doing your own and you want that accuracy and it's all on your shoulders,
Hmm.
you know, um, very much so. I understand 100%. I was sweating the whole time I did my 338 edge, and that I'm like, I'm trusting. I knew my gunsmith was good, the guy that trained me. I knew he was good. Okay. But I didn't think he would be able to teach me to be good, but he did. And he, kind of like the old school nuns where they would slap your fingers with the ruler if you didn't do it right,
Yeah.
stop, do it again, make yourself do it again. So, he'd get in there and give me a hard time and tell me stop, back up, redo. I never had to redo much, but I did have to slow down a little bit and do this a little different, do that a little different. And that will stick with me for life. Um, my goal will be to have a lathe by the end of the year, but we'll see where this world's going. It's kind of been kind of crazy. So dropping more money into something right now when I do have a couple of good gunsmiths on a phone call and they have been taking care of me is hard to deal with because
I
of
I
time.
completely I completely agree. I'm in a very fortunate situation that a really good friend of mine, he's got a lathe in his machine shop. He does precision machine work. So if I need to cut a barrel, I just pick up the phone and I call on him. I'm like, "Hey, I need to borrow your lathe for the weekend." And I've got that essential tool right there that I don't have to dish out 10, 15, $20,000 for. I literally
Correct.
just go to him and I'm like, "Hey, I need to borrow your lathe. I need to reserve it for this weekend if that's okay." And nine times out of 10, it's perfectly okay. Um, so, which is a great thing. But,
Right.
and no matter what happens with the industry, like legally or illegally or anything like that, I'm not invested that money in that lathe and no matter what, he'll still be able to use it when it's all said and done.
Correct. And I'm not a machinist by trade, so this would just be for this. So I'm gonna hang tight for just a second.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like if you've got buddies that have them that are machinists and things like that, there's really no point you having to dish out 10, 15, 20 grand for
Yeah.
a tool when you can pay them a few $100 to use it for 10, 12, 14 hours, whatever.
Right, and get a chance to see him, hang out with him because we live about 8 hours apart.
Yeah.
So for me, that's worth the trip right there. Because we're good friends and prairie dog hunting partners. Whenever they sneak out here, but he hasn't been the last couple of years. He's been doing other stuff. He's also a motorhead, so he's been playing with his Corvettes.
There you go. So, you mentioned doing prairie dog hunting. What are you hunting with your prairie dog?
224 Valkyrie, to 22 Creedmoor, 6.5 Grand Old. Depends on the day. I load a little bit of everything up, and I take my time, and I split up the day. And I have a cabin right there next door to my neighbor that's got all the prairie dogs, and I have free run to his place. So I'm pretty spoiled. I just text him, say I'm on my way, and if I have 4 or 5 people in my group or whatever, I just tell him, and he says, "You know the rules," and that's the last I hear from him all weekend until he asks me how many I killed.
I think the Grindle is how you and I linked up
Yes,
with everything. We're both big Grindle guys. I love the
I
Grindle.
love my Grindles. I got 2 of them.
See, we're in the same boat. I've got multiple Grindles. I love the Grindle.
Little to no recoil, but yet you're getting that punch down range. I'd have to say a close second is my 224 Valkyrie. A lot of people, I jumped on that bandwagon pretty quick. Fortunately, my gunsmith had some input into that and knew everything that was wrong with it from the get-go. So when I ordered my barrel, if it didn't shoot, I was able to send it right to him and he would fix it for me.
Yeah.
I did not have to do that. I was fortunate enough. I got a barrel that shot very well. But I also didn't do any factory ammo. I went right in and said, I'm ordering this twist and I want to run 88 grainers and 95 grainers. And it loves the 95s and the 88s about equally, probably a little more accurate on the 95s, but to keep it cheap, I run the 88 ELDMs. Because if I get into prairie dog mode this year, I haven't gotten fortunate enough to be up there as much as I normally am. It is nothing for me to run 3,000 to 4,000 rounds a year on them. With the primer shortage and everything, it's been a little tougher. I am stocked for primers, but I try to keep them for the important stuff and only sneak up once in a while. Unfortunately, that hurts my prairie dog population because they multiply fast.
So here's a question for you. With you being big into prairie dog, why aren't you looking into like the 20 tactical or the 20 practical for prairie dog hunting? It's a very fast moving projectile. It's a laser beam. It doesn't burn out the barrels, things of that nature. What makes you still want to run I'm a Valkyrie fanboy. I love the Valkyrie. I worked up a load with 88 grains on mine. It's an absolute laser beam out to a mile. It's so much fun to shoot. Doesn't move. If it was slow enough to run in PRS, I would run it in PRS, but it's just too damn fast.
Right. I've looked at those and I have the opportunity to do those because I do have the 223 bolt head for my pristine. And it takes me about 15 minutes to swap a barrel. I'm set up to do everything on that. It is a Savage barrel nut on the pristine action. So the pristine action is kind of cool. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on that just so everybody knows. Savage, small shank, and Savage barrel nut, Remington 700 footprint, and trigger. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And I see my Valkyrie is a 1 and 7.
See, mine's a 1 and 6.5. And it stabilizes the heavy projectiles really well, like the 88s, the 90s, the 95s.
I bought a 24-inch 1 and 7. because I want to sit back and snipe prairie dogs at 300-400 yards. I don't care about 100-150 yards. That's fun, but I like to sit back in the wind. Oddly enough, I put an ATN day-night scope on there, and I'll be darned if 300-400 yards, that scope is such a blast to shoot them with, and I can video it all.
Yeah, I like the ATN stuff. I've got one of theirs for my night coyote rifle, in 6.5 Grendel. So, state of Kentucky, we've got this wonderful law where you can hunt coyotes at night with a 6.5 only for a rifle or shotgun slugs.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, we're able to smoke. We can go out to the range, like the range I practice at, and be set up literally on the shooting pad where we shoot from. And coyotes will run in at 4, 5, 6, 700 yards. Be pitch black at night. We can spot them, but see, like you have to spot with red lights here, so you can't spot with white or anything like that. But we can spot them with that, and just getting behind it and smoking one at 600 yards in the pitch black night. It's crazy.
What a rush, huh? We get to do it, but we're limited. We have a short season for that. So I've had a hard time spending $3,000-4,000 on a thermal, but this year it may happen. Just because I promised myself I'd hunt more coyotes, and I didn't get to hunt a lot last year. Again, with the family stuff that was going on, it really screwed up my last couple of years. And I try to stay busy to work. If I've got work here for Boom Country, I'm here. I don't run off and play unless, it's a major match that I'm already committed to. And then I'm going to tell you up front when you come in that it's going to be 3-4 weeks before you see your part back. And I know industry standard is kind of 2 weeks, but
I personally would rather you have it the longer time and it be done right the first time than
correct. And I'm so much of a perfectionist. If I find anything I don't like, I'll call you and tell you, hey, I needed another week or two. I want to fix something. I want to do something different. I want to change it. When you come in, I try to take your ideas and run with them. But as any artist will tell you, they may not get it exact to what you're looking for, but they do. I do my best. You will see one of the stocks I did on Instagram was a copy of a movie for a friend of mine out of Keene. He dropped it off, and a week later, I had that done for him. Some projects take me a little longer than that. I've got a restoration going on right now that took me a little longer than that. I've got an AR in there that's taking me a lot longer than that. But unfortunately, he dropped it off right about the time that everything went down. So that was kind of a big deal. And he's a friend of mine as well, which is great. I do a lot of friends and family work. So
gotcha. So John's got a great question here about the pristine. So is the pristine a lot of the same configuration as like the AR-15? The end user can change things pretty fast and easy.
And a barrel vise, a no-go gauge, go gauge, that would be suggestible. I do it old school, but I'm not telling you to do it old school. Please buy the no-go gauge.
I do it old school.
You and I both would, yeah, but I'm not telling anybody else to do that. Go buy the no-go gauge, buy yourself a $70 barrel vise, tape your barrel really good, clamp it in your barrel vise so it doesn't move. 40 pounds later, you are set. A savage barrel nut wrench and a torque wrench, you've got it.
Dude, you know what's crazy to me? So I am a master armor. The craziest thing for me is guys will come into the shop and they'll be like, hey, I need you to put this barrel on for me. And so I'll torque it down, and then they'll go to their buddy that he's a gunsmith. We're not going to say gunsmith. He's a gunsmith. And the buddy is like, "Oh, it needs to be torqued down to 75 inch-pounds or 75 foot-pounds." I'm like, "Dude, no, it doesn't."
Hey,
He
is there a way you can black me out for just a second?
just
Just
hit the
on
camera
video?
thing.
Just
Hit
hit the
the
camera thing?
yeah.
Perfect. I can
Yep.
still do audio. I got to grab something real quick for my wife. But yeah, that yeah, it's this is just something I got addicted to, and I absolutely enjoy it for my downtime.
Yeah.
Making things pretty, making things the way I want to see them, or somebody else wants to see them. That brings more joy to my life than a lot of other things I can do. I used to shoot pool. I used to do this. I used to do that. I wasn't home. This allows me to be home. My son actually helps me in the shop. He is actually working to the point where he's almost to the point where he is 100% self-sufficient, to where he can be in the shop while I'm gone.
Yeah. That was really loud in my ear for having Bluetooth.
Sorry, I apologize. I got a good mic.
It's all good. I was like, "Oh no, that was awful." That burned my ear. Sorry.
No, I apologize.
No, you're good, brother. So we're gonna get down to wrapping it up. So I only like to have my interviews go for about an hour. So
Yep. I
I feel like
appreciate that too, because I got a lot to do tonight.
Yeah.
I got an AR going back together that's going to go home.
So some of my questions are, as we start closing out, what's your next match? Are you gonna be at Gap and Grind?
No, I will not make Gap and Grind. I will be in. We were hoping to be at a team match in July. We found out suppressors were needed, and we don't have time. They would borrow them to us, but we don't have time to be down there a day early. So at that point, we will be either in Williston or Cody, Wyoming next.
Well, if you're at the Wyoming match, I might try to come out to that one. I don't know. My schedule is pretty booked right now, so
Yeah, and that's in the middle of July, so it's only a couple of weeks away.
yeah.
Not sure I'm going to make that one either, but it is my weekend off, and I would really like to hit a match. We may just say, hey, we're going to go prairie dog hunting. We have some pretty important people that are supposed to be calling me to come out and visit. So we'll keep that secret for right now until they show up. But some pretty cool people.
So how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way for somebody to reach you?
Boom Country Hydrographix LLC. Actually, it's just Boom Country Hydrographix at gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. As it's seen on the screen right now, or you can text me at 701-290-3038. My name's Ryan. Tell me who you are, and I will help you out to the best of my abilities. I am a licensed FFL, so you can send your firearms directly to me. They do get sent directly back to your FFL. I got to double check. I believe for repair, I can maybe send them directly back to you, but I will verify that before you send anything to me. I just want to be 100% on the right side of everybody.
All right, and so we'll close it out with one solid piece of advice, whether it's dad advice, parent advice, brother advice, uncle advice, husband advice, life advice, firearms advice. Doesn't matter whatever kind of advice it is. We're gonna go ahead and throw that out right there. One good solid piece of advice.
I can do that. Be good to others. Try to be good, and I know people say it all the time, but try to be as good to somebody that is new to the industry as you would want to be treated yourself, whether you've been in it 20 years or you've been in it 5 minutes. Don't be afraid to ask questions, ever. There's no such thing as a stupid question. The guy that tells you there's a stupid question is the idiot himself.
I agree. But Ryan, I appreciate your time. I
Well,
appreciate your effort, your energy, and I can't wait to see that pristine rifle finish, man. That thing's gonna be
yeah, as
beautiful.
soon as we do, then we'll make time to get yours in here and see when you're ready.
Yeah, I've got some designs that I'm doing right now that I'm drawing up and I'm working on the computer.
Send them over when you got them, man. You know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I've got all your info. But Ryan,
we can get all the vinyl cut. We can make it work the way we need to.
hell yeah, I appreciate it. But Ryan, I will catch you on the backside. But I do have Ryan's Instagram linked in the description down below. Go follow his Instagram. Let's blow up his Instagram. Let's help promote his business. Ryan is
And
one of the
thanks
best
everybody that showed up.
Ryan is one of the best cerakoters in this industry and does some of the most phenomenal work that I've ever seen. So go over there, check out his Instagram, and Miss Pimp will probably ask you to do a live with her. I did one with her not long ago. Great person to do a live with.
All
She
right,
does like the
I'm an open book.
She's super great to talk to and things like that. Super easy to talk to, like a lot like how this is. So if you get a chance and she messages you and asks you to do an interview, 10 out of 10, 110% recommend.
Yeah, no problem, man. We appreciate the exposure. We appreciate you guys appreciate our work. I mean, without people who appreciate my work, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, and dude, that's the thing about this industry is being locally owned, operated, small business. We do one thing bad for one person, our name gets ran through the mud. And
Oh,
and dude, you do some of the best work that I've seen. It's consistent. It's always great work. I have not seen you throw out something atrocious. It's always been phenomenal work.
here, before I close out, I'll close out with my motto, okay? I'm not the fastest. I am the most particular, and I'm not sending it back to you unless it was the way I wanted it for through your eyes.
Now I get it, dude. But we appreciate you, Ryan, and I'll catch you on the backside. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.